Greetings all, and welcome to Daily Pali Reading. Today we are going to begin looking at the Mūlapariyāyasuttam. This is a wonderful sutta, and I believe it has the distinction of being the only sutta about which the monks who heard it were not pleased by what the Blessed One had to say. Now I think that there's that works on two levels, and we'll get to that. Maybe not in this video, but we will get there. I'm certain in the next one. So this is found in the very opening sutta of the Majjhimanikāyo. So this is the collection of middle-length discourses, the Majjhima. And this is, of course, found in the sutta basket, the Sutta Pitaka of the Tipitaka, of the three baskets. So we'll talk about the meaning of this when we get there. This is explicitly mentioned down here. And I don't want to say we're going to rifle through the beginning, but this is, at least up through here, fairly formulaic. We find this quite a bit in the suttas, in the beginning of suttas. So we'll talk about it a little bit. And if that's confusing, I will have a video soon that picks this sort of thing apart in a little more detail. Evaṃ me suttam. Very famous beginning of all the suttas. Literally, thus by me heard, or so I've heard. Ekaṃ samayaṃ. One time. At one time, or during one time, we should say. So this is accusative, expressing the length of time. Bhagavā, the Blessed One, viharati, is living. Now this is historical present. A lot of people recommend to translate it with a past tense. I don't like that approach. I think they make this present tense for a reason. They want to make it vivid. It's vivid. During this one time, the Blessed One is living. It's right there it's like we're watching a movie, right? He's living. Ukkaṭṭhāyaṃ. So this is the locative, and it's a place name, ukkaṭṭhā. And we get two other locatives. Here we have subhagavane. So vane is like a grove. And this, I think, is either a proper name, subhaga, or I think it means lucky. So in the lucky grove. And then mule, which is the locative of mula. And that's the same word here. At the root of, or maybe in English, at the foot of the saw, like a saw trees, and not only saw trees, but raja, so the royal saw trees. I believe saw trees come up in, I think in the very first paragraph of Siddhartha. So if you've read that, you'll come across those, and figs, I believe. Tatra ko Bhagavā bhikkhū āmantesi. There, and this ko typically just does not get translated. It's just connecting to what came before. That's my explanation. The Blessed One addressed the monks, bhikkhū. Bhikkhavo. So this is the end of what he said. He said, "O monks," this is like the vocative. Bhadante. And so this is what they said. This is marking the end of what they said. Te bhikkhū bhagavato paccassosuṃ. Bhadante, or, sir, those monks assented, or maybe just responded, but literally like assented or promised, but assented to the Blessed One. This is aorist, third person plural aorist. Notice here, bhikkhū, this is our nominative plural. Here, it's going to be accusative plural, and that is very often the case that we find nominatives and accusatives having the same form. Bhagavā etadavoca. The Blessed One said this. Notice these kind of get run together. And you could say, it's literally said this, but this etad is actually what's going to follow. So we might just say the Blessed One said, sabbadhammamūlapariyāyaṃ bhikkhave, desessāmi. Monks, I will teach you a discourse, we'll come back to this in a minute, on the roots of all phenomena. Tongue, suṇātha, listen to it. Attentively, sadhukang manasi karota, attentively pay attention. Karota, make your mind attentively. So just kind of like pay attention. I will speak. And this is notice we have a couple of future, first person future indicative verbs here. So I will speak. Evaṃ Bhante ti ko te bhikkhū bhagavato paccassosuṃ. Now this is like the beginnings, thus, so, here kind of just like, yes, sir. Those monks, and again, assented to the Blessed One. So one thing to just keep in mind here, we have bhikkhave and bhikkhavo. Those are both plural vocative forms. So they mean the same thing, slightly different form here. Now, this pariyāyaṃ, it has an array of meanings. It could be a discourse, and it could also be like a sequence. And what we're going to find here as we go through is that there is, in fact, the Buddha steps through this sequence of phenomena. So you might think about it that way too. I will teach to you, and by the way, I went over, this is the second person plural dative personal pronoun. So I will teach to you a discourse or the sequence of roots of all phenomena. Okay, now going on, Bhagavā etadavoca. So this is the exact same form here. The Blessed One said this, or the Blessed One said, Idha bhikkhave asuttava puttujano arayanang adasavi arayadamasa akovido arayadame avinito sapurisanang adasavi sapurisadamasa akovido sapurisadame avinito. So we'll take it up to there. Here, so like right here, meaning kind of in this world, in this life, O monks, puttujano. So a jano is like a generated being, a person. And this is like just a common, like a many person or something. I think the Pali English Dictionary gave as an equivalent the hoi polloi, if you like some Greek. But, a common person, ordinary person. Now, what they mean by this, though, not they, but what the Blessed One means, what the Buddha means here is a person who has not embarked upon the spiritual path. He or she has not embarked upon a path that is going to lead to liberation. They've not set out to do that. And actually, here is one reason right here. Asuttava, or I should say asuttava. One who has not heard, a non-hearer. if you follow Advaita Vedanta at all, this is like the first step of kind of, I don't know if you'd say spiritual training, but Shravana is hearing. And then Manana would be actually deeply contemplating that. And then Nididhyasana would be internalizing and making the truth you've heard a lived experience or a reality, a felt reality. So this type of person here has not gotten there, has not heard the Dharma, And a dasavi, and so here, a non-seer of noble ones. And here, noble ones are not like our betters. They're not genteel. They're not the aristocracy. The noble ones are those who have undertaken the spiritual path, a path that's going to lead them to liberation. And here it is dative plural, or dative, I'd say actually probably genitive plural. So seeing of, you could maybe get it that way, but this is clearly the object of this. And then akovido, ignorant of the noble Dharma, of the noble teaching. Avinito, untrained in the noble Dharma. And then this is very similar here. By the way, I guess you could say maybe not ignorant, but not proficient in, untrained in, but kind of like ignorant of. So adasavi, a non-seer of satpuri, of satpuri sanang, of so this comes from puriso, a person. Satpuriso are like really like worthy people. So this is, I would say, functionally equivalent to the arya. So a non-seer of worthy people, unskilled or ignorant of the worthy Dharma, and untrained in the noble Dharma. And didn't say here, this is our locative. This is our locative singular, and this would be our genitive singular. So that's where we are here at this point. Then he goes on. This person, this putujano is the subject. Sanjanati, perceives pattaving. Notice there's a slightly different reading in quite a few other Tipitakas, but the difference there is in pronunciation. And I can't even do that, pattavim. The meaning is the same. This common non-spiritual path traveling person perceives earth from earth, literally, patavito. Now this is an interesting ending here. This is an ablative ending that can be used with any sort of declension. So you might notice that pataving does not look like the word dhamma or something like that. But this ito or to can be put in on any, can be used with any declension for the ablative singular. Now, this is kind of interesting because I believe Bhikkhu Bodhi takes this as perceives earth as earth. So takes this as adverbial. I can only say, like, if I read this, I wouldn't know to take it that way. I would think perceives, and by the way, obviously Bhikkhu Bodhi is, I'm not a 16th of a 16th of, I don't have a 16th of a 16th of his knowledge of Pali, but just for me, when I see this, I would think perceives earth from earth, the ablative, and maybe on account of earth, because there's earth, perceives earth. Having perceived, now this is our third person present singular. Here is our absolutive. This is the same verb, but having done that, having perceived earth on account of earth, thinks about earth. And I don't know if, I didn't look up, is mentate a word? Considers, cogitates earth. So I think maybe imagines things, starts to formulate ideas about earth. Now here, this is one of these cases, literally a case, where it's hard to know what the actual case is, because this could be any case except the nominative, vocative, or accusative. So this could be dative, instrumental, genitive, or locative, and I feel like I left one out. Ablative. It could be any of those. Let's come back in a minute, because here in the next one, patavito manyati, now this is explicitly ablative, thinks because of earth or thinks from earth. So this is probably not ablative. Maybe it's locative. And actually, I think it's locative, and I think maybe formulates ideas in the earth, formulates ideas from earth. I shouldn't say the earth. We're not talking about the planet, and I didn't mention that yet. Pattaving meti manyati. This puttujano thinks, and now here we're getting a little quote. You might look at this and think that it's a verb, just like this ending, or maybe it's a causative verb or something, but it's not. It's may ti or may iti. This person thinks pattaving me, my earth, thinks this earth is mine. Pattaving abhinandati, that person rejoices in the earth. And then on the grounds of what? Or this is on the grounds of what? Basically, why? And then aparinyatang tassā'ti. This is lengthened because of this t. So it's just tassa. Of him, it is not fully understood. Now, it could be that this tassa is matching this kissa of what? Of this. It could be that Pali, like Sanskrit, like Greek and Latin, they don't really use a form of the verb, or they don't have a way to say have with a single verb. So what they do is they, here it's implied, use a form of the verb to be with the genitive case. So there is of this one non-understanding, or due to his non-understanding. And then the Buddha says, vadami, I say. So he has said, or I declare, he has said all of this. The thing about pattaving is this is earth in terms of like earth, air, fire, and water. And actually, the order is a little different in Pali. It's earth, and then next we're going to get water, and then we'll get fire and air. And here's the thing that we have to think about, or two things, is that this isn't just third-person objective speculation about like, hey, there are protons out there, or there's energy and mass, and because where this all comes down is here, pattaving me. So the Buddha, the problem does start back here at perceiving earth, but it ends up becoming a big problem when it's like, this earth is mine, particularly when you think about how that relates to our bodies. Now this would go for all four of the elements, which make up our rupaṃ. So, and, misidentifying our body as ourselves, as me, as mine, is a huge problem for us. And the Buddha says this is one, a massive hindrance for us. And the aforementioned Advaita Vedanta would agree on that point. So it's not simply like talking about like, oh, we have some opinions about earth. No, it's coming down to this, that we perceive this earth as being me, And then, furthermore, abhinandati, to rejoice in the earth, to take pleasure in the earth. And there's a little bit of a clue here. If you think about, as we go on, we'll see that people on the path and those who have maybe even reached the goal, they do not rejoice in pattaving. And I wonder, I'm just going to plant the seed here, when we reach the end and the monks who have heard this do not rejoice, if partly it's because their normal way of thinking about the world has been sort of torn to shreds, but also is it because they realized they shouldn't rejoice? There should be no rejoicing, because that also is a hindrance. I hope that this isn't been too long-winded. When in the next video, we'll go through and point out that this is one of the great examples of how repetition is used in the suttas, where you just plug in a different word and it is, apart from that word, the structure stays the same, and we're going to see that happen. So that's what we'll take up in the next video.